you can be a student of the game. I don't care if you're with Coldwell Banker, you can learn from Remax. I don't care if you're Remax, you can learn from Compass. I don't care if you're with Compass, you can learn from XYZ. Be a student of the game, grow your knowledge, and your confidence will grow.
You're listening to the Real Estate Sessions. I'm your host, Bill Risser. Listen in as I interview leaders in our industry, getting their stories and their journeys to the world of real estate. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 253 of the Real Estate Sessions podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for telling a friend. Today, I'm very excited. We're going to talk about luxury marketing, the luxury real estate market with Michael LaFido. Michael's written a book on the topic. He's also created a designation, the Lux designation, that's available in a few states now, and he's rolling it out more around the country. He speaks nationally on the topic of marketing for luxury properties. And he says you can do it. Anyone can do it. It doesn't matter what kind of car you drive. It doesn't matter where you grew up. That this is a market that can be dominated with the right strategies. So I'm really excited to chat with him today. Michael, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Bill. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have a conversation with you because when I found out you live in the Chicagoland area, I'm really hoping that you grew up there. Was that where you were born and raised?
Yeah, I've lived in Wheaton, Illinois since 1984. That tells you I'm dating myself, but yeah, 36 years have lived in about 25 miles west of downtown Chicago.
Okay. A good buddy of mine grew up in Elmhurst, so you're
Sure.
Close to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Technically, my real estate license is hung with the brokerage in Elmhurst, so that's a great suburb.
Can I just assume that you were in total rapture with MJ and the Bulls in the 90s?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love that Last Dance series that they just had, and I mean, I went to some great playoff games. I was at the playoff game when the Bulls beat the Knicks when Jordan when he was retired, and Scottie Pippen refused to go in. I was at that game, and was at some other playoff games. I went to the game when the Bulls won their 70th in Milwaukee. It was the first time any NBA team has won 70 games in the regular season. Now, Golden State won 73. They won 73-9. Now, they didn't win the championship. The Bulls won 72-10.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah,
they didn't
absolutely.
win the championship. Yeah. I made sure I took my son, who was only 5 years old at the time, to a Clippers game because we lived in San Diego at the time. Okay. I took him to a Clippers game to see MJ. He had to see Michael play, even though he was only 5. It was important.
No, you're absolutely right. And I put Walter Payton up in that for a Chicago fan, great running back for the Bears. And it was pretty cool because when Khalil Mack got traded to the Bears a couple of years ago, I had the great fortune of previewing Michael Jordan's home for a potential client at the time, happened to be Khalil. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. Nice. Yeah. I like that. So I love it. If you listen to the podcast, I love talking sports. It's just too much fun for me to find out where everybody's kind of heads at. So, but I had to ask, is it Cubs or White Sox for you?
I'm a Cubs guy, but the White Sox had a no-hitter yesterday. I like the Sox. When they won the World Series in 2005, I'm a Chicago fan, but when they play each other, I'm definitely a Cubs guy.
Okay, cool. I like that.
Yeah.
You're into sports. Did you? I'm just going to guess you played some football in high school.
Yeah, I played high school baseball and football and a little basketball, but I was a scrapper in basketball. But yeah, football is. I was a baseball guy up until high school. That was my favorite sport. And in high school, I went to some high school football games, and I fell in love. And football's been my sport ever since.
Yeah. What was your position in high school?
I played strong safety, defensive back. And then in college, I played college football at Northern Michigan University, Division II, and I played cornerback there.
So you're a Wildcat. Do I have that right?
Yeah, Wildcat. That's where Steve Mariucci and Tom Izzo went there. Jerry Glanville, former Falcons head coach.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's cool. So let's talk about, first of all, playing, you say Division II, I don't care. You played college football. That has got to be a thrill. It had to be an incredible adventure. I mean, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I do believe that sports, there's more life lessons in sports than maybe the classroom, right? So I'm coaching my kids right now, and I think there's so many lessons in sports. So some of my biggest mentors were my high school football coaches, and so I was very fortunate enough to be on a state championship team in high school, and then I played junior college football. You talk about non-glory football. You're playing in front of the same number of people that you probably played in front of ninth grade freshman football. I mean, literally family. That's it. You're playing for the love of the game, and I was very fortunate enough to have enough highlight types, even though I never started a junior college game. Now, again, we were on one of the best junior college. We never lost a game in 2 years. We were basically a Division I factory. We had amazing athletes there. And you talk about what life lessons you have. So I literally recruited myself. So when I sent out my highlight tape to schools, including Northern Michigan, where most of the time they're recruiting you. I was sending out, just like I recommend the real estate agents today when they prospecting to cancel their expireds. I had to differentiate myself, and I did reverse prospecting. I did reverse recruiting back then, and Northern Michigan was called, and I thought they were going to be like everybody else and say, "Hey, thanks, but no thanks." But he said, "Hey, we're interested in bringing you up and offering you." So that was pretty cool.
Do you watch football today? You must watch it differently than all the rest of us because you've played the game at a high level. And a cornerback of all positions. I mean, on the island. I mean, when you make a mistake at cornerback, everybody sees it. If you make a mistake at offensive guard, not many. The film room sees it. How do you
Yeah,
handle that?
yeah, that you definitely have football knowledge just based on that, Bill. You're absolutely right. The way I tell people is, my mom, who still says, "What were you in offense and defense?" Some 20 something years later, people that are watching the game, they don't know much about the game at all. They might not even know offense or defense or position names, but everybody knows when a defensive back makes a mistake, particularly a cornerback, because it's usually 6 points or a big score. So.
Yeah.
Every play you had to be on. You had to be knowing what the tendencies are and pass, run, read your keys, and that's what made it so competitive for me, because I wasn't the most gifted athlete, but I had to study the game and know film and know tendencies, and and again that translated into I was a teacher right away out of college, and I was a part-time real estate agent. And then, now fast forward, I run a luxury consulting company and speak across the world. And those lessons that transfer over to real life.
We hear that time and time again when you hear an athlete talk about um, post post their athletic career. Even Hall of Famers come out and talk about how important those lessons you learn, right? When you're all working together, you got 50 guys all trying to achieve the same goal, and everybody's got to have each other's back. And, and that you're right, that absolutely directly applies to the world of real estate.
It really does. It really
Yeah.
does. Working with personalities types, right? You could write books in real estate, right? Horror stories, client funny stories, whatever. As real estate agents, dealing with people from different backgrounds. I mean, I played junior college ball, and I come from Wheaton, Illinois. There's not a lot of minorities in Wheaton, Illinois. I had some African American teammates on my football team, but I went to junior college, and Caucasians, whites, we were the minority, and it was predominantly African American teammates. And it was great. It was great to learn, and it prepared me as a teacher. It prepared me for dealing with clientele from different backgrounds, different languages, and again, you can't learn that stuff in the classroom.
So you were going to be a teacher from day one. Is that what you were going in? Education was your major?
Yeah, so I looked at, when I was struggling what I wanted to be as a sophomore in college, my football coach, who also was my guidance counselor, said, think about people that have been influential in your life. And they were all teachers or coaches. So I knew I wanted to be a teacher and coach from that point on. So I graduated with a double major in health education and physical education. And my first job in 98, I was a high school health and physical education teacher and a freshman football coach.
Wow. That's great. You mentioned you're coaching your kids. Are they playing? Are they playing ball already?
Yeah, so they're playing. They haven't done tackle. My oldest was going to do tackle this year, but because of COVID-19, but they did flag football, and I was their coach last year. It was a blast. We went undefeated, and I was the D coordinator, and we had 7 games, and we had 6 shutouts. I'm a pretty intense coach, but I have high expectation of my kids and my teammates. But more than anything, I want effort. I don't care if we win or lose. Like I just coached them in baseball this year, and
Yeah.
um, we were 4-6 going into the playoffs. We won the first game, and then we played the undefeated 10-0 Cubs team, and we were up going into the 5th inning, and we ended up losing 11-9. But I was so proud of the kids because they didn't blink, right? And I when my kids are pitching, and I say, finish, right? I want them to finish, just like in life. You got to start something, you got to finish. Or when my kid's pitching against their number one hitter, I'd say big on big. Like, this is what you played for. Like, you want to go against the best. Like, these are things that you learn about through
Yeah.
sports that I can't tell you, Bill. I was at Inman, New York. I guess it would have been 2019, and I had somebody come up to me like, "Oh, Mike, there's someone I want to introduce you to." Well, it was a real estate agent in Atlanta, and and she's like, "Man, I wish I would have met you. I had an opportunity to list a $10 million plus home. It was pretty much a shoe in because somebody referred me. It was a PGA golfer's home, and because of fear and limiting beliefs and the what ifs, she didn't even take the listing." And so, like, again, if she, and she may have been, I could be wrong, but if she was a high school athletic, played even 5th grade, 7th grade athletics, and she took something from life back then, like, man, I remember this time we played this team and I didn't blink and I went for it. And like, those are things that you can transfer from sports to real world.
It's so funny you say that. I still remember to this day, my baseball career ended fairly early, but in the majors. So we're 12 at the time, right? But Donnie Coons was coming up, and his older brother, Doug, had the record for home runs, and I was pitching. It was the last game of the season. It was the last at bat because I had come in relief. And if he hits one more home run, he breaks his brother's record. And it was something in me that said, it is not going to be off of me. I'm
That's
going to do
awesome.
everything I can. And he
Yeah.
did not go yard on me. It felt so good. Yeah, take something out of that. I think that's awesome. You said part-time real estate. So how did real estate get in your life?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So the summer before my senior year at college, in the summer months, I worked for a buddy of mine's dad, and I power washed and stained decks. So literally, you'd be out in the field power washing, getting dirt and grime on you, and I'd be collecting the checks. That, I'm making up the number, I can't remember, but let's say I was making $12 an hour, and I'm collecting $300 checks, $400 checks, and I did all the work. And I knew I was going to be a teacher. I'm like, this would be perfect. So I got that summer when I graduated, I started my own deck cleaning business. It was called Deck Reshine. Made about as much in one summer as I did my first year teaching. And
Mm.
2 summers later, I was power washing a guy's deck in Naperville, Illinois, and the last name was Darfler. And he says, "Hey, have you ever thought about getting in real estate, Mike?" I said, "No." He goes, "Well, I run a real estate brokerage, and my best real estate agent is a teacher and a coach at North Central College in Naperville. The next, that's where the gentleman lived." And 2 months later, I got my real estate license. And the way I looked at it, Bill, was if I could sell one home a year, that would be the equivalency of me coaching a couple sports. And I was cool with that. And there was a gentleman, God bless his soul, he passed away, but Bob Glover, who was a teacher with me at Glenbard South in Glen Ellen. He was a real estate agent at Coldwell Banker. That's where I hung my license originally. And Bob said, "Hey, Mike, sometime you're going to make more money selling real estate than you are teaching, and you might consider stepping away." And I'm like, I said, "There's no way. If I could sell 30 to 40 grand in real estate a year, that's the equivalency of my part-time business, I'd be happy." Well, sure enough, a couple years later, I was the second leading producer for the entire Midwest for realty executives, making high 6 figures. And I stepped away from teaching in 2009, 2010.
Yeah. You stepped away. We're going to get you back there in a little while, though, because the teaching never leaves the teacher. I don't think ultimately, right?
And it doesn't. So that's where my consulting and my coaching and my Lux designation comes in. Is I'm speaking across the country. My course is approved in Texas and Georgia, and we're looking at Florida and other
Yeah.
states because it's in my bloodline. I want to help people. Even when I'm coaching 8, 9-year-olds, if I can make somebody believe in themselves, feel better about themselves, like there's something for me that is invigorating about this. I read a quote today from Maya Angelou. I'm probably
Yeah. Mhm.
butchering her name, but she says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And Bill, there's something about that. Like, I love inspiring adults, educating real estate agents, helping them increase their average sale price. Because I do believe, if an agent is more successful, they're going to have less stress at home. If they have less stress at home, they'll have healthier relationships. They'll be a better parent.
Yeah, it's a big circle, and that's just going to make them a better realtor, right? It's just this
Mm-hmm.
great cycle that you
Mm-hmm.
want to get into. I've had agents in my role with Fidelity say to me, Bill, what's the secret to getting in the luxury market? And my answer was always like, know somebody in the luxury market and go work with them, or have a sphere that's already kind of luxury based. But I think you're going to tell me something different. And you've written books on this topic, right? About how could I, and how did you do it? Let's start there. What was that driving force and what was that tactic or that strategy that helped you?
I guess a couple things. So being a former athlete, right? Success is a journey, not a destination. Like, the film doesn't lie. You mentioned that, right? So
Yeah.
so we play Friday Night Lights, high school football, and we had high expectations. Our coaching staff, we took second in state my junior year. My senior year, we ended up winning state undefeated, but you'd feel good about the win on Friday night. Then Saturday morning, you come in as a team, you watch film, and the coach would light you up or maybe embarrass you indirectly by calling you out, like, hey Mike, why was your head down? Or I put you in a perfect position to succeed, and you missed a tackle. And so as an athlete, the drive to be the best, to be better, is always there. So whether I was as a high school teacher, going to conferences, going to football clinics, from my real estate agent, I remember early on I invested in coaching, by referral only. And Joe Stump was who I invested in. I remember taking sick days and going up to Lincolnshire, Illinois, and being around full-time real estate agents. And here I am, a part-time agent, dressed like a gym teacher, but learning from best practices. So, then luxury, then fast forward to luxury. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, in a commission-based industry, if you sell higher priced products, you make more money. And so, I knew that there was a void in luxury. I was coaching luxury agents, and I realized that there was a void out there. You had the $1 million agents, no offense to them, out in California and LA or out in the East Coast, but the average agent couldn't relate to them because they didn't live in Beverly Hills or they didn't live in the Hamptons. So for the blue collar communities or for the everyday person, and here I am, Midwest and Chicago based, and a lot of people could relate with my story more so than the top luxury agents in those areas I mentioned. So I kind of shifted, Bill, everything from just helping agents and inspiring agents to really more luxury specific. But the stuff I teach relates to all price points, but we do focus on luxury.
Okay, that makes sense. You mentioned your designation, the Lux designation. That's got to be first of all, that where did that idea come from? Because there had to be this moment where you went, you know what? I think I could do this. And then talk about the process, because I'm sure it's not just as easy as, like,
Yeah.
hey, here's a class and I'm done. Here, give me my designation.
Well, there's right brain people and left brain people, right? Your left brain on your analytical, your spreadsheet. I'm a right brain guy, and most real estate agents are. So I'm creative with our videos and outside the box. But putting together a course, writing books, I've written books. That's not easy to do for somebody that's high energy and a little ADD like me. So it certainly didn't happen overnight, and it's just like anything else. You've done over 250 of these, and if you listen to your first one. It's compared to the one today, right? It's night and day. Same thing with us, and so we launched our designation. At the time, it was called Marketing Luxury Expert. When we launched it in Dallas, Texas, to a Remax office, Remax DFW, and Mark Wolf. He has over, I think, 300 agents. And very successful Remax franchisee in the Dallas Fort Worth market. We had over 100 agents at our training, and at the time they were launching a luxury division, and maybe you know the name, maybe you don't, but Judy Lador, she helps brokers recruit agents, and Remax is a big client of hers. She speaks at R4, and she told Mark, "Hey, you got to talk to this guy because Mark was launching an internal luxury division, and he was thinking about." And it's a great designation. I never badmouth the competition, but he was thinking about having the Luxury Institute to teach their designation course. And Judy highly recommended me, so he interviewed me, and we didn't have any, and we still don't. You don't have to have sold luxury homes to take our course to get our designation, and that was a big difference of our course and the institutes at the time. But Mark had us down, and we helped him launch his luxury division, and we've done 3 reiterations and updates to our designation since we launched it 4 years ago. So again, it's that athlete in me, always getting better. We went from 14 modules to 16. We just helped Keller Williams launch their luxury division in Mexico. They had us down at their family reunion in Mexico, and we taught our course. We've had interest from others speaking different languages, taking this more global. And so we're looking to continue to grow this, Bill. And it's practical. I believe people that take our course say it's practical. In other words, you're a newer agent. We speak your terminology, but it's also advanced. I'm a luxury agent in Beverly Hills or the Hamptons, I believe that they'll learn something from it as well.
What are some of the myths about the luxury market, or even agents that succeed in that market? There's got to be a few that you
there's 5 common myths, and I actually just covered this with maybe Aaron Ludin with Orlando Real Producers.
Yeah, I
He
do know
had me
Aaron.
on a training with Michael Mayer from 7 Levels of Communication just last week doing this. And so number 1 is you have to be licensed X amount of years before you can sell luxury. That's false. You could be a newer agent and be luxury, but most people think you got to have some gray hairs before you can sell luxury. Number 2, you have to come from wealth. You have to live in a luxury home. That's false. Number 3, you have to be with a certain brand. Hey, I can only be with Sotheby's or Compass or fill in the blank to sell luxury. False. Number 4, you got to drive a certain car to sell luxury. I mean, that's false. And number 5 is you can't compete with X amount of already luxury agents in your market. In other words, Bill, there's 13 luxury agents already in your market. There certainly isn't room for a 14th, or there's 5. There's not room for a 6th. Those are all false, false, false. I call those limiting beliefs. And so I tell real estate agents, grow your knowledge and your confidence will grow. So grow your knowledge by listening to Bill's podcast, by listening to our podcast, Luxury Listing Specialists, by reading books, you can be a student of the game. I don't care if you're with Coldwell Banker, you can learn from Remax. I don't care if you're Remax, you can learn from Compass. I don't care if you're with Compass, you can learn from XYZ. Be a student of the game. Grow your knowledge and your confidence will grow. If you're more confident, Bill, you'll do more prospecting, some more lead generation. You'll go to broker tours. You'll take that listing. I have a winery. I'm selling a winery outside of Galena, Illinois. It's 2.5 hours from Chicago. I didn't even know we had wineries in Illinois. It was a referral from an ERA agent down in Florida. And my philosophy is have car, will travel. I believe that I'm a marketing agent. And if I do my due diligence and I understand local trends and the schools and the unique features of the home and the location, I can market that home better than a local non-marketing agent.
Right. In my 20 years in the business, it seems to me that marketing is a word tossed around a lot in the real estate space that very few realtors are good at doing. Very few. Do you agree with that?
I would agree. My tagline in my consulting business and even my home selling business, it's not the market, it's the marketing. And I believe an agent's job is to position the home more effectively so more buyers can visually see themselves buying and moving in and buying the home. And, I was selling a house in downtown Chicago. It had a Twister themed bathroom. In other words, like the Twister board game, it had red, yellow, green circles. I was the second agent. There's an old adage in real estate. You want to be the firstborn, the second wife, and the third real estate agent.
Okay,
Many times I'm the second or third real estate agent. The first agent didn't show any pictures of that bathroom. for good reason, right? I mean, I know 999 out of 1,000 buyers wouldn't want to touch that room, that bathroom, no pun intended. And I looked at it as an opportunity, Bill. So I had my professional photography company take a photo of that bathroom. I, matter of fact, brought out the board game and placed it on the bathroom countertop, and it was part of the photo in the MLS. Because I believe our job is to get more eyeball traffic. If you get more people looking at the home, more people talking about it, more people raising their hand, you'll have more qualified showings. The more qualified showings you have, the higher probability the seller's going to net more money.
I add into that loop, I've talked about this before, but like writing good copy or being a graphic designer. I mean, these are all really important skills that I think some agents try to do. That stuff's got to be outsourced. You mentioned you're a professional photographer. You know your limitations.
Yeah.
And you probably outsource that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a big believer. Like, I know your audience can't see what I'm doing, but if I were to hold up my phone, like we are basically in a Tinder industry. People are either swiping left or swiping right on your listing and my listing. They don't care. I could literally bring in some of the best copywriters in the world and have the best description. They're not reading it, Bill, if they don't like what they see in the photos. And so most agents, they either show too much or not enough. Okay. And so it's our job to highlight the best features of a home and downplay the least favorable. And most agents are terrible at that. And they're terrible at having that difficult conversation. If I was coming into your office, Bill, and I was taking photos of your office, I might suggest less is more. So let's take some photos down. Let's do some of this and let's do some of that. But most agents don't want to step on your toes or offend you, and they don't feel confident explaining and articulating that. And so guess what? They position the home poorly, and you get less showings and less offers and lower offers.
How has COVID-19 affected your world in the luxury side of things? How's the high-end market handling this?
The luxury market, not just in Chicagoland, like you, I have a podcast and I have fingers on multiple pockets across not just the U.S., but the world. The luxury market in most major markets is actually stronger than it's been in years. Again, not the downtown areas, not the vertical living condo market in Chicago, but the single family homes in the suburbs, just within a half hour out of Chicago, are thriving. I had an agent from Houston I talked to the other day. She's had more showings on her $1 million listings in the last month than she had in the previous 12 months combined.
Do you see those people in those towers moving out to a place where I got more room in case I got to do this again?
Yeah, I see people moving out. I also see an influx, just like the commercial. I think you mentioned earlier, Fidelity's doing a lot of more Zooms and people aren't going into work. I think the commercial, the office space and residential condos are going to struggle for years, maybe moving forward. And so I feel like there's going to be an increase in short sales and foreclosures in the downtown market because people can't sell them.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. That'll be tough to do. So, yeah, and Florida and Texas, I think, are the two places that are probably going to benefit a lot as well, right? Luxury markets here are extremely busy.
Yeah, I think you're going to see tax-friendly states. Of course, Florida, you got no state income taxes. Same thing with Texas. I think even smaller markets like Colorado and Denver and the Nashville market and Arizona. I think you're going to see and the Carolinas. I think you're going to see better climates and more tax-friendly areas are going to benefit because people are tired of just burning their money and giving it away in some of these cities that are run by higher tax philosophies.
Michael, I've had you here the half hour, and I know you've got some work to do. So I want to just give you the final question we've asked every guest. That's, what one piece of advice would you give a new agent just getting started?
You hang out with 9 top producers, you're bound to be the 10th. Who's in your inner circle? Who are you learning from? Zig Ziglar said, you hang out with 9 dead broke people, you're bound to be the 10th. But who are you surrounding yourself with? What are you listening to? If you want to be a top producing agent, if you want to earn X amount of dollars, you got to observe them. Tony Robbins says success leaves clues. Go figure out what someone else successfully has done and model it. So that's what I'd recommend to your listeners. There's tons of free content out there. We interview people just like you do. There's tons of free content out there. Success leaves clues.
Michael, if somebody wants to reach out to you or, find out about your designation or find your books, this is your chance. Where should we? And we'll put links in the show notes so they have access to all that stuff.
Yeah, so our designation is just luxurylistingspecialist.com, luxury listing specialist. There's an FAQ section that can learn about it, what's covered. There's 16 modules. You can learn all about that there. We have a free Facebook group, Luxury Listing Specialist. So I'm a big believer in free. We have our podcast that's free. They can go to luxurylistingpodcast.com, or it's on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes. And, or they could always shoot me an email, Bill, Michael@marketingluxurygroup.com, Michael@marketingluxurygroup. People can Google you. They can Google me. There's enough ways to find me.
Yeah, that's great. Michael, this is great. I really thank you, first of all, for sharing some of those football stories. That's amazing. And I love how that's become just a part of who you are. And I really look forward to kind of running into you again at a session somewhere when we're back seeing each other face to face.
Absolutely, Bill. Appreciate what you're doing for the industry, and keep raising the bar, and likewise.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Sessions podcast. To leave a review or rating, go to ratethispodcast.com/RE sessions. You can also subscribe to the podcast at your favorite podcast listening app. Finally, you can go to therealestatesessions.com and subscribe to our email newsletter and be notified whenever a new episode is released.